Hello, I'm Xavier Dolléans. I'm a French cinematographer. I'm based between Paris and Los Angeles, and I'm shooting mostly narratives, so TV series and feature films. Germinal is the 6-part limited TV series, and Germinal is initially a book, very famous French book from the French literature written by Émile Zola. It tells the life of the miners in the north of France at the end of the 19th century, and they try to fight for their rights and to fight against the bourgeois world. We started to talk about Germinal at the end of 2019 with the director David Hourrègue, with a friend of mine, and we were already shooting another TV series at that time, Scam France, and then the producers, they offered us to shoot a new project, a bigger one, a period piece. The book itself is quite big, it's 700 pages. It was really interesting to try to tell that story with 6 hours. As a DP, my work to find the look was to talk about the look with the director, to try to understand where he wanted to go, and we quickly talked about the black and the coal, and we had this idea of emerging from the black as the idea of the revolution emerging from the back of the mine, under the earth, you know what I mean? Then we talk a lot about Western. For us, it was a Western because it was like countryside. So we had this idea of the Western, big vista, wide shot. We had ideas of contrast between the bourgeois world and the miners' world also. The bourgeois is more lit, more static, and the miners is more black. And when we were inside the miners' houses, we wanted the light to be able to hurt the eye, like those people are spending a lot of time under the earth, and then when they come to daylight, they are kind of not very used to daylight. So from this came a lookbook, 100 pages lookbook. From the Western, very quickly, the ratio came, you know what I mean? So the 2.39 ratio, 2.4 ratio, and then discussion around how are we going to do that ratio? Is it going to be anamorphic or is it going to be spherical? For every show, I like to test every camera again. So I did a very basic test with color charts and everything, overexposure and underexposure. And one of the very good tests was to use one candle just next to a face, and with 3 cameras of every brand that we know. And then I pushed all the camera all the way up to the maximum ISO, and actually the one was the most powerful camera and the most precise was the Sony Venice. So I decided to use the Sony Venice because of that, because actually it's the more sensitive, and I know that I will have so many candles, and you know, when you do period, actually you are lighting with the sun or the fire or the moon. This is the 3 source of lights, or you can have gas when you are working at the end of the 19th century, but I needed something very sensitive and also something that is very powerful, I mean, in the way that the color rendition is into the low light, to have something very precise, and the Sony Venice is the best for that. You have very subtle things about colors and everything. With the director, I probably tested around 20 sets of lenses, spherical and anamorphic. And very quickly, David told me, the director, he told me, oh, you know what, I really want to go anamorphic. I really want some anamorphic flares. First, we were looking for full frame anamorphic. So we did some tests, but it was too heavy or maybe not available. We tested many full frame spherical, but it was too clean. So finally, after looking for ticking all those boxes, we ended up with Atlas Orion that we love so much on Scam 5 and 6, and we were so happy with that, actually. So on Germinal, we had a full set, A and B on camera A, and then we had an A set, so 40, 65, 100 on camera B. The thing that we didn't do is using the 32mm, because for us, especially for David, the deformation was too much. So we decided to use spherical for everything under the 40mm. So for all the wide shots, we shot with a 15mm Leica. Spherical shot for the wide shot was interesting for the VFX team, because they were like in spherical for all the big effects. So it was a good way also to help them. They really felt in love with the look very quickly after 1 week of shooting with the first dailies. Everybody felt in love with the look of the anamorphic, and the patina we had, and everything blending together, like the wardrobe and the patina on the costume and into the sets. And the final touch was the Atlas Orion lenses, bringing this kind of anamorphic qualities and artifact and bringing everything together, actually. We started the shooting at the beginning of October 2020, and we ended at the end of February 2021, so it was about 5 months of shooting. So Germinal was shot in the north of France, near from Lille and Valenciennes. Those cities were the city at the end of the 19th century. That was a great place about coal. So this is really the place where the book is written, actually. We started to do our scouting location, and we quickly discovered that we were not going to be able to shoot into the mines, actually, because the actual mines, everything is closed. We had to build our mines by ourselves in studios, so we had a big time of prep to try to find a good place to build them, and we found a studio in the north of France, near from the mines. We did the mines, and then we had to find another aquatic studio to take a part of the mine and to put it into the aquatic studio, the underwater studio, and we shot in Belgium for that part. I really like that image, that scene. This is a beautiful scene shot in an attic. For me, this is a good example of how things can be blended together by the anamorphic. Actually, on that scene, we built this wall is not real, so we did this. And just behind, this is black, so we had to also light and mimic the daylight coming from outside. And I was really happy with that. And then I was a bit worried because the attic is very modern, actually, but we light it this way and everything kind of blend into darkness and very small colors also. So we have this idea of the colors from the miners emerging from the black. And this is a frame that I like very much. This picture is from episode 5, I think, and Monsieur Hennebeau that we see here discovered that his nephew is having a love story with his wife. So this is a confrontation between Hennebeau and his nephew. And the thing is, on Germinal, we had many beautiful sets. Most of the time, I tried to stop down to see the sets. So mostly, I walked around between T4 and T5.6 to be able to see the sets. But the good thing with anamorphic is very quickly when you open up, you are able to isolate people, and in certain situations, that one in particular, I think we are around T2.8. The idea was to be able to isolate the character because at that point he is very alone. The thing that I like with anamorphic is to make the background like a painting, abstract very quickly. So you have this feeling of loneliness, and this is also really beautiful, and this is something that I did a lot on Germinal. On that sequence, we used a 19K outside, bouncing on a 20 by 20 white frame. Most of the time, I'm using a lot of blacks on the roof and on the walls as a negative feel. I have probably a floppy on the right, but also I know that for the highlight, I'm using the fabric lights. There is a diffusion called Magic Clothes that I like too, and I'm using that a lot in conjunction with the Aladdin and the bouncing coming from the window. For the back window, we probably use another 9K bouncing into a smaller piece of rag, and just to have this over white something into the background. I really love that screen grab coming from episode 6. This is after everything happened, after the mine collapsed and everything, the miners finally go again to the mine because this is their work, so they have to. On Germinal, we use the light in the miners' world in a specific way. So we wanted the light to be hurting the eye when they came out from the mine. So when we shot that sequence, actually the sun was not there. It was like on the other side. So the tunnel was kind of just black, and I asked to my gaffer, I told him, I'm sorry, this is too poor, we had to find a way, and and we were already ready and everybody was waiting, and I told him, okay, take a mirror, 1 meter by 1 meter big mirror, and put it into the frame and make a really big flare, because this is the end of the story, and finally there is a light, there is a hope, So it was a good opportunity to make the light hurting, but also being a message of hope. And I was really happy because we used the mirror, and then we had the flare coming, and then the director told me, wow, this is so great to have this at that moment, to be able to be so strong with the light. And actually the mirror itself is in the frame, but because of overexposure, this is a light coming from the sun, but the sun is on the other side actually. So this is only the reflection of the sun. Probably we had a DPB-7T, the light from Dedolite HMI, bouncing on the roof just for the general contrast, From the TV series Germinal, there is a message about revolution, I did it for that. This is a universal message, actually. That was very, very interesting to be able to go so far visually in terms of anamorphic look, darkness, colors, and visual effects on a French TV series. We were very lucky, actually, to be able to do a project like that. So I'm also very happy to use the anamorphic on a TV series in France. This is not so common actually to shoot real anamorphic. This project changed things for me because I was selected at Camera Image with that, I found an agent in the US with that work, so that was a good opportunity for that too. What I love the most using Atlas Orion is that they bring a kind of patina on the image actually. For me, the Atlas Orion is it's really a good way to have this patina, this not so perfect picture, still being very sharp in the center actually, so this is still a very good image that you have. This is a good way to bring it cinematic quality to what you shoot.